Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show.
Ooh, this is nice.
This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. This show originated from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, the live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, he first made his debut almost 2 years ago to the day, a New York Times best-selling author, and we talk about a new book he has coming out here shortly. Michael Grunwald rejoins the show. Last time he was on, we talked about lab-grown steak cuts, not plant-based beef protein, plant-based protein, whatever. This was specifically stuff being grown in labs that were supposed to look like steak cuts, if you can remember back that far. That was a long time ago. Everything's 2 to 3 years for me, and it's exactly 2 to 3 years in this instance, so finally I'm right. But we'll be talking about something completely different. Maybe we get a little bit of an update on the past topic as we lead into the interview, but then we have a book to talk about in the latter half of that interview. 14 past the first hour. Then we move to the second interview segment in the first hour, or as we call it, 35 past the first hour, where we'll be joined by in-studio guest Aaron Huntelman, who is right there. Aaron, welcome back to the show. Happy to have you. And we will be chatting it up about Mister Brisket, and we'll be talking about a little thing called the American Royal and Mister Brisket, and we might talk about the news you just broke to me before you jumped on air. Maybe we won't. I don't know, because all of a sudden I got a billion questions that I think I was going to ask you until you mentioned that. So welcome back. Happy to have you. And, of course, you'll be sitting in, from what I hear, on the embedded correspondence segment in the second hour.
Why not?
You're here?
We're here.
Might as well spend all the time you possibly can. So
Yep.
Stay tuned for a Aaron Huntelman, and he might join into the conversation in the first hour anyway with Mike Grunwald. We'll see about that. That brings a close to the first hour, and then we will move to the second hour, where, as I just mentioned, it is the fourth Tuesday of a month. And because it is a fourth Tuesday of a month, we will be joined by no less than all of the embedded correspondents and an Aaron Huntelman. Go Big or Go BBQ. And we have what I would call a litany of brand new 100% assurity questions to run through. So many, I never think I'm going to have enough. And then by the time it's all over, I think, how could I possibly have come up with so much? We have some embedded correspondent contributions to this, but the lion's share have come for your humble host. And I think they're pretty good. I have a new system that I'm trying down, or that I'm trying out over the last number of months as far as how I structure these. If you see some type of structure to that you can point out singularly and you would like to guess at it, You can shoot me an email or just jump in the chat if you would like and let me know what you think I'm doing. But I'll be honest. If you guess right, and if not, I'll tell you you're wrong when we move on with our lives. And that will bring a close to the show because, of course, embedded correspondents take the balance of the second hour. So that's how the show is laying out here tonight. Michael Grunwald and Aaron Huntelman in the first hour. Second hour, embedded correspondents also joined by Aaron Huntelman sitting in here in studio through the whole evening. So be excited for that. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, and LinkedIn, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. And we say good evening to those of you watching this show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week and partially spawned by this past weekend's events. And the question that we're asking everybody tonight, including all guests, is this: have you ever followed a band around the country before? And currently 100% of you are saying no, never followed a band around the country. Aaron, it's not that I'm not asking you right now, but of course, as you know, in the Embedded Correspondence segment, we always lead with the YouTube poll question of the week, and we will get your feedback in about an hour or so from now. So you're allowed to change your mind as many times as you would like over the next hour and change. But when we come to you in the second hour, you must be direct. You must be confident and courageous with a 100% yes or no to the question, have you ever followed a band around the country before? 100% of people saying no. I mean, already close to a third of the votes are already in, so I'm a little shocked. For me, I'm the 100%. Like, I would never follow a band around, and any band that I might follow around is going to suffer from what I would call same-set-itis. So if I'm following around like Metallica or Menudo or Ariana Grande or the great Harry Styles, because I've seen them all in concert, not Menudo. I've seen well in advance of them showing up to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city what they're going to be singing, because their set list is widely published. It doesn't change. And the one positive that I hear about Jam Band, at least as it relates to this band called Goose that I saw on Friday, there is not a set list that is made. You might think you're going to hear this song or that song, or maybe they play some of their most popular hits wherever they go, but the set list is ever changing and no one knows what covers are going to be dropping in. So you can only see from the latest show what was played, but that by no means amounts to what you might see the next night or later on Saturday, what have you. So that's the take right now. Oh, of course, and as I talk, now we are at 91%. 9% of you are saying you have followed a band around the country before. There is a Jason Kaplan from the Howard Stern Show recap coming. That will be in the second hour because I want to allot it due time. And I have some questions to ask Mr. Huntelman in his segment, too, that actually relate to the Jason Kaplan visit. But in the next hour and 40 minutes, I thought I would start here this evening. It has come to my attention that the last 2 days, perhaps across the country and maybe the globe, but I don't care about the globe. I only care about this country because that's where I live, that the last 2 days have been really, really hot. Need I remind most of you, it was a miserable winter, followed by an equally miserable springtime. And now that we have enjoyed 48 hours of what is typical summer weather, more than any other time in my life, I have heard the bitching and moaning and screaming. It's dangerous. It's hot. It's 90 degrees. Do me a favor, in the words of the great Dave Chappelle, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It's 90 degrees. It's summertime. It's beautiful. There's nothing better than going outside and letting the sun and the heat hit your body. Moments of you thinking, I could be getting a sunburn. You're not thinking that when it's 30 below in the winter, thinking no matter how many layers of clothes I'm going to be putting on, I'm never going to be warm enough. When in the heat, you can quickly find a convalesce inside of an air-conditioned building and quickly you cool off. Gang, we're 2 days into it. Please shut up about how hot it is. There's a chance it could get hotter in the next month or so. Mike Grunwald is in the green room, ready to go. We're going to be talking about his new book. He's a best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author. We have a string of New York Times best-selling authors on the show now that I'm thinking about it here over the last month or so. So excited to catch up with Michael. Before we do that, might I entertain you with Pits and Spits? If you're serious about your grilling game, you need to check out the latest stuff that they have to offer. Let's kick things off with the Pits and Spits griddle. The gas griddle combining the power of a traditional grill with the versatility of a flat-top griddle. Engineered with precision and crafted from top-quality materials, this versatile griddle is set to revolutionize your outdoor cooking experience. Constructed of 304 marine-grade stainless steel, fully welded design, the griddle comes with 4 burners to accurately manage your heat zones and get blistering hot with 80,000 BTUs. By the way, as mentioned by Ryan Zabora last week, there appears to be a 3-burner model that's coming out as well, and your humble host might be a tester for that, so we're excited. Now, for those of you building your ultimate outdoor kitchen, you have to check out the built-in pellet grill designed for the discerning grill master who demands top-tier performance. This grill, the centerpiece of any serious outdoor kitchen. From low and slow smoking to high heat searing, the grill can handle it all. Brisket, ribs, pizzas, veggies, and the like. This grill can cook it all, and with the Pits and Spits legendary craftsmanship, you also can be confident it's built to last. Stainless steel construction, of course, a design as reliable as it is versatile. Take your grilling and cooking game to the next level. Head on over to the website, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com, all spelled out with a double T on the pits and the spits/BBQ Central. And then use promo code BBQ Central at checkout for a free spice pack with orders over $500 or more. Hook it up. And once I get my nasty little mitts on that 3-burner, I'll give you honest feedback, because I think that could be a real game changer for the backyard. All right, we're back with Mike Grunwald right after this. Stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard, makers of Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, the Fireboard Beacon, and the wireless Fireboard Pulse. When you use a Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the world as long as you're connected to Wi-Fi. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. And studio guest Aaron Huntelman has corrected me. I've mistakenly spelled his last name wrong. Forgive me. Can I call you Aaron Huntelman now?
Yep.
Yes. All right, Aaron Huntelman it is. From now on, T-shirts will be made, of course. My first guest tonight made his debut on the show back in September of 2023, where we went deep on plant-based, lab-grown beef cuts and what that looked like. This time around, we're talking about his new book set to release on July 1st, entitled We Are Eating the Earth, the Race to Fix Our Food System and Save Our Climate. We welcome back our pal, New York Times best-selling author Michael Grunwald to the show. Mike, how are you, pal?
Hey, thanks for having me, Greg.
So we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody tonight, including all guests. So you are a guest, and we ask you, Michael, have you ever followed a band around the country before?
Around the country? No.
No. Like you'll visit, you'll do a little SPAC or a little MSG or something like that, but you're not going
exactly
state to
no.
state? No? All right.
I'm not that guy.
92% of the YouTube voting public aligning with you and me. We have in-studio guest Aaron Huntelman. He's not allowed to answer yet. He has to save that for the second hour, but we're also a big fat no. But I was introduced to a guy who I've had quite the digital relationship with over the last 10 years, and he's very keen to follow this band Goose around. You know Goose?
I do not know Goose.
Have you ever heard of Fish?
Yeah. I actually saw Fish on New Year's Eve in 2000, like right before the millennium.
All right, so you saw it before everything, before Fish was Fish.
Yeah,
so evidently Goose was set to become the next Fish, so jam band kind of thing. So saw him in an intimate setting. Nevertheless,
interesting.
Most people that are listening and watching the show at this point have not followed the band around, and we move on from here. Before we get into the book and what you're looking to bring to the forefront here, if you don't mind, if we could trot back to that previous topic from a few years ago with lab-grown cuts of steak, beef, what have you. Where are we these days in that situation?
Well, it's funny. They actually the first FDA approvals just happened for a company called Mission Barnes that's going to be putting lab-grown fat into plant-based meatballs and ultimately be, and I've tasted them. It tastes like pork meatballs. They really do, because the fat, as you know, from fat is such an important part of the taste of meat. It's really kind of overpowering, and it seems to be the easiest and cheapest part of the, to grow rather than trying to grow 100% lab grown. That's going to take some time. So that's great. And then there's a company called Wild Type that just got approval for their lab grown salmon, which I've also had. And that's terrific. That's really good. It tastes and feels like the real thing. So I think, it's going to take time, but there were a lot of people who are sort of writing the obituaries for this stuff. And behind the scenes, they've just been bringing down the cost. And so it's going to be very difficult to compete with meat. And obviously, they don't like calling it lab grown. They call it cultivated meat because it is not in a lab. They're basically going to be brewing it in breweries. But I think it's not going to be a major part of our meat or food system for the next 10 years. But down the road, I think you're going to see a lot of it.
So to say in a general sense that the plant-based and cultured food scene is on the downtrend is an inaccurate statement.
No, I think certainly, plant-based, they had their big moment in 2019. Beyond Meat went public and it suddenly was $200 a share. It was suddenly worth half as much as Tyson. And I went to a conference on this stuff. I thought I was going to accidentally raise a Series A round in the drinks line. Everybody was so insane about it. And really kind of, the classic, the dogs didn't like the food. It just doesn't taste as good and is not as cheap as animal meat. And so it's really struggled in the marketplace. I'm not one of the people who say it will never be as good. I have a lot of faith in technology. I have this thing in my pocket that I can use to look up any fact known to mankind and use it as a flashlight and video chat with people in China. So, there are a lot of smart people working on this and maybe they'll figure it out. But so far it's just not as good. So people aren't buying it.
Let's talk about...
And meat's really good, as you know.
Of course. Meat is awesome. Meat is the greatest. There's no doubt about it. So unless you're a vegetarian incredible. Or somebody like that, you don't think meat is the greatest. But us carnivores are big believers in beef, no doubt about it. So let's talk about the new book here entitled We Are Eating the Earth, the Race to Fix Our Food System and Save Our Climate. What do you mean when you say we are eating the earth?
Well, ultimately, agriculture is eating the earth, right? A lot of people talk about how, urban sprawl, how our cities and suburbs are moving into nature. Well, that's about 1% of the earth is developed. 40% of the earth is cropped or grazed, 2 of every 5 acres on the planet. And 2/3 of that land is pasture. So to a large extent, and this is where I start getting in trouble with your listeners, but beef is eating a lot of the earth. I've actually cut out eating beef, and I freaking love beef, but I would have felt like a little bit too much of a hypocrite while working on this. I just eat more chicken and pork instead. Chicken and pork is not as good for the earth as lentils or beans, but like I'm weak. I love meat, but beef is like 10 times worse than chicken or pork. And it's partly because of the burps and farts everybody makes fun of, but it's mostly because it uses so much land. Cattle are really inefficient converters of their feed into our food. So dairy's pretty bad too, but dairy cows are producing food, multiple times a day. Beef cows only produce food once. And so it's a sort of very inefficient form of agriculture. We get about 3% of our calories from beef, and it uses about half of our agricultural land. So again, I am not here to stand on my soapbox and tell people what to do. I'm just, my book is trying to put out some facts, and those are the facts. Like, it's one of the reasons that we're having these hot days, right?
Is it?
It's contributing,
yeah.
Sure. And as time goes on, we're gonna get more and more of them.
As a fan of heat, then I say, let's get more goddamn cows out there and let's jack it up a little bit. So the cows don't like it so much either, right? It's tougher on the cows. It's tough on the crops. Yeah.
There are going to be, and what part of the point of my book is that everybody talks about fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are definitely an issue, and they're 2/3 of their climate problem, but food is a third of it. And it gets about 3% of climate finance and about 0% of climate conversation. And it's an even bigger part of our, biodiversity problems. It's the major cause of deforestation, wetland destruction. So it's a big deal, and if you do care about the planet, this is important stuff.
When the cows are around grazing, you said they're, inefficient, plus they're a one-time use.
Right.
If I'm listening to the ranchers that I'll have on the show, we're doing regenerative pasture, whatever the fuck they're calling it. Is this just bullshit? Does it have some kind of truth? I'm just trying to suss out, if I'm going to spend my money with somebody and they're telling me this, am I doing anything good, or is it bullshit?
It's good for the soil. But these movies where, you see Kiss the Ground and Common Ground, where they claim by doing regenerative agriculture, they're reversing global warming. That is almost entirely bullshit. And in fact, grass-fed organic beef is worse for the climate than conventional feedlot finished beef, because essentially feedlots are more efficient. They get the cattle to slaughter weight faster, so they're not around burping and farting methane as long, and they use less land because, again, they get, it's a more efficient way of fattening them. And you got to remember, a lot of what goes into a cow is not become meat, right? It's hooves, it's tails, it's breathing and mooing and pooping. These are all activities that require energy, require feed, and do not produce meat for us. You can see the appeal of trying to grow lab-grown meat. It's like, oh, well, we're not going to grow for chicken, we're not going to grow the feathers and the beaks and the clucking and the breathing, or for cows, we're not going to, grow all this stuff that doesn't make meat. They're not there yet, but you could see how in the long run it could be, more efficient and even cheaper. Right now, cattle are, they are inefficient and environmentally expensive. I have solar panels on my roof. I have an electric car. I fly way too much. I have a pretty big impact on the climate and the planet. I'm not one to shake my finger at anybody. And then there are some people who will be like, how can you write a book about agriculture and that it's eating the earth, and you still eat meat. And basically, it's like, I don't know, I love it. I'm sorry. So again, I'm not trying to tell people what to do. I'm just trying to put out some facts. But it is true that animal agriculture, in many ways, the earth is becoming an animal farm, and we are on track to deforest another dozen California's worth of land by 2050. And we don't really have another dozen California's worth of forests to spare. So these are tough questions, and things are going to have to change. I write about, dozens of ways things can change. But one thing I just always do try to point out is things aren't going to change by people screaming like meat is murder, you're evil for eating meat. And I talked to a pollster who said that taxes on meat or other restrictions on meat are the least popular policy he has ever polled. He said it was up there with veterans benefits for ISIS. So again, right now, right? Ground beef is what? It's $6 a pound right now.
Yeah.
It's these are, and people don't like that.
So is this what's happening? We don't realize that somebody's jacking up the prices of meat because in the end they're trying to get us to stop eating more meat?
Well, no, I think it's more a supply and demand thing, and there have been, as you've seen in the meat industry, there have been this screwworm problem, and where that can really affect the supply, and when the supply goes down, the price goes up. You've got tariffs, you've got a lot going on, and I would not say that this is you do have, as there are some pretty. Do you call them cartels? I don't know, but there's a lot of concentration in the meatpacking business, and that has to do with that drives up prices. But again, there was cartels a few months ago, and the prices weren't this bad. So it's I wouldn't point to one particular
Weren't the cartels being sued for collusion or something like that not too long ago?
Well, I know the Biden administration was, this is not my issue, but I know the Biden administration was sort of trying to, to push some anti-concentration type things, and the Trump administration has pretty much stopped that. Certainly some of like Tyson, these kind of vertically integrated companies that, that I know a lot of people who are actually chicken farmers complain about that. I think with cattle, it's a little different. You've got a couple these companies like JBS, which is really massive. They're just kind of huge. I don't think it's as much a vertical integration thing, but again, it's people love meat. People love beef. The world eats 350 million tons of meat every year.
Wow.
And we kill 70 billion animals every year to eat them. And so, I don't think, it's not going to be Mike Grunwald writing a book saying well, you are eating the earth. And people are going to be like, whoa, sorry. Okay, we'll stop. It's kind of it's not what I'm saying. But I do think these are issues that people got to grapple with. And yeah, I do put in a little plug. If you like pork and chicken as much as I do, eat a little more of that and a little less beef. The average American eats the equivalent of 3 burgers a week. And if we only ate 2, we would save the equivalent of a Massachusetts worth of land every year. So this stuff does add up. It makes a difference. And, if this is something you care about, something to take in mind. And if something you don't care about, God bless.
You've put a lot of work into it. You've done your journalistic due diligence. You're a decorated journalist as well and writer. Is there a portion of the population that will go, this guy's full of shit and he's working some kind of an agenda?
Yeah, it's funny. This actually started. What I'm getting at is I didn't have an agenda because I was spectacularly ignorant about this stuff. I stumbled into it because basically I'd written a lot about the environment. I'd written a lot about the climate, and I realized I knew absolutely nothing about the food part of it. And that's a third of the problem. And like I said, it's even bigger part of, our water pollution problems, our water shortages. Agriculture uses 70% of our fresh water. And actually, again, beef is sort of the baddie there. So I came into it knowing nothing. And I really, said like, there are a million books about energy and climate, energy and the planet. Let me look into food because that hasn't been done. And it was really like just a journey of discovery for me. So yes, it is true that some of the regenerative people are mad at me because I am very tough on carbon farming. I talk about how some regenerative practices can actually help with kick-ass yields because basically we need to make more food with less land.
Sure.
And to the extent that, this regenerative stuff, particularly on the grazing side, it actually seems to help, particularly in Brazil. You see like, some of these rotational grazing, mob grazing can actually help with yields. That's awesome. And I'm not trying to be prescriptive and say like, oh, you've got to have feedlots or, industrial agriculture is the only way. But I do call bullshit on some of this carbon farming stuff. This idea that we're just going to magically sort of repatriate all the carbon we pumped into the sky and put it in the soil. And so, yeah, I did a debate at Berkeley where it was me against this professor of agroecology. And Alice Waters, the sort of famous organic chef from Chez Panisse in San Francisco.
Yep.
She was sitting in the third row and just glaring at me the whole time, just staring daggers. Although I will, as long as I mention that, I should say that Paul Newman's daughter, who runs Newman's Own Organic, she came up to me afterwards, and obviously she wasn't thrilled with everything I had to say either. But she was like, "Wow, that was really interesting. I learned so much." She was much. I asked, she had been sitting next to Alice Waters. I was like, "Didn't look like Alice Waters thought much of it," and she was like, "Yeah, no, she was. She didn't like it."
I feel like the more, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, or maybe it's because of the world we're living in these days. I feel like people are way less inclined to keep an open mind, to go to a debate. Like, so what is a debate?
Yeah.
You're going to hear one side of something, you're going to hear another side of something, and then maybe it's something that nobody's leaving their mind open to consider the other side. They want to go to hear the echo chamber of the side they want to support, and then it's like they don't even want to hear the other side of it, or they stare daggers at that person instead of keeping an open mind and going, maybe I don't agree with everything, but he really brought some things to light.
I think that's right. I mean, but look, I will there was a room, it was a room full of 200 hippies and foodies who wanted to hate me. And I think by the end, they'd really we'd sort of found some common ground, and it was really interesting. I did a guy who ran a regenerative group out there. He's sort of also is one of the heads of Slow Food USA. He came up to me afterwards and was like, I wanted to hate you, but you totally won. And I ended up doing his podcast. So it's so again, I think there are actually some characters in my book people who kind of come around, who sort of realize they're wrong. And I do think there's some dignity in that, in being able to say like, hey, you kind of gave me some facts, and now I know something I didn't. And that is part of my book, is this notion that these are issues that people know very little about.
Yep.
And I can say it because I knew absolutely nothing about it. Now, 6 years later, I know quite a bit, but I think it's one of those things where most people don't know very much. A lot of what people think they know sort of just isn't so. And so I think it's always good to have more facts, and these are not necessarily ideological issues, right? That regenerative stuff you talk about, like, yes, Al Gore loves it and Michael Pollan loves it on the left, but Bobby Kennedy and Joe Rogan love it on the right, and Archer Daniels Midland and General Mills and and the United Nations, and so and the Rockefeller Foundation and a lot of environmental groups are all pushing this stuff, and they're all angry at me in varying degrees. So again, like I think there's stuff that we can learn from each other. I sort of talk in the book how I think that sort of people who are big industrial ag supporters and people who are the kind of more, natural, kinder and gentler regenerative ag supporters, I think they can learn from each other. They don't necessarily need to be locked up in their silos. I mostly I'm trying to start a discussion, and that's, hopefully that's, if people don't have to agree with me, as long as they're clicking and reading the book, right?
I feel like you should be able to do your job, report what you have found out, and if you want to partake in a steak once every 6 months, or you want to eat more chicken and give up red meat all the way, It's not hypocritical. You're doing your job, and you're also enjoying some things that you like, but you're doing what you feel is your part. And go on.
Look, that's right. I think, I feel like diets are a little bit like religion, right? Everybody kind of finds the level of hypocrisy that we're comfortable with, right? No, I always like perfect isn't on the menu. I try to say that better is better than worse. That's really a real theme in my book, and sort of in a lot of my journalism, I think, has been like trying to look at ways that things can be a little bit better. Acknowledging that, probably like we're a kind of flawed species, right? We have, we're not very nice to the planet. We're not very nice to each other. But we're really good at inventing stuff. And sometimes when we do feel like we're in a crisis, we're really good at reacting to it, and we're good at solving problems. So I think this is a problem to a lot of us. It doesn't yet feel like a crisis because we're not all going to die tomorrow from climate change or from, biodiversity losses or from any of these issues that I'm writing about. But it's important and it's a big deal. And I think a lot of people, including a lot of farmers and ranchers, want to leave a better planet for their kids. They care about the land. They consider themselves good stewards of the land. And I think many of them are. But one of the things I am trying to say, without trying to offend anybody, because we eat, and so we all have an impact on the planet, but collectively agriculture is stewarding a mess. And I think we need to try to have it make less of a mess, and we should be trying to help farmers and ranchers make less of a mess. If beef was only 3 times as destructive as chicken, like that would be a tremendous victory for the planet.
Yeah.
Right. And for those of us who feel like, well, like Willie Sutton said, like he why do you rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. Like, well, if you care about emissions, like beef is where a lot of the emissions are. So like vegans would just say like, no beef. But I'm saying here, like, a little less beef would be good, but also better beef. And that's not necessarily the kind of like Michael Pollan approved, regenerative, kind of foofy, light on the land type of beef. Sometimes it's like feedlot beef that's just really efficient.
Yeah.
But in any case, like low emissions beef that's better for the planet is going to be really helpful and really part of the solution.
The book is We Are Eating the Earth, the race to fix our food system and save our climate, ready to go on July 1st, which is like a week away. So wishing you
can
great
pre-order
success.
it now.
Yep, go ahead, pre-order wherever you get the book. We're wishing you great success on that, and we'd love to have you back again soon to talk about anything else climate or beef or non-beef related. It's always a great conversation, Michael. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Have a great July 4th and grill it up.
All right. Take care. There he is. Michael Grunwald. So grab your copy of his new book that'll be coming out in a week. Pre-order it now. Of course, everybody loves pre-ordering. That's evidently you got to have a big pre-order stable, Aaron, if you're going to see success in book writing anymore. That's all I'm hearing. You got a big following. Have you been approached about writing a book?
Not yet.
Not yet?
The Thigh Life by Aaron.
Yeah. You can't talk that low. You got to get into the mic and project. Otherwise, you're going to get kicked out of this studio.
Be loud.
You have to get right on that mic and be loud. No shyness here.
Smile.
I'm going to have to turn the preamp up all the way and blow everybody out of the water here. Any thoughts on that interview?
I'm not smart enough to talk to that guy.
I mean, I'm not either, but I did.
I sell meat, so I mean, the only thing I was thinking was if we can make steaks that we don't have to cut, it cuts labor costs down on the butcher shop side of things.
Yeah, so then you're out of a job, is what you're saying?
The guy, well, you only have to have one guy at the shop instead of 3.
Yeah, and it's you, not everybody. Sorry, everybody else.
See you later.
Aaron needed a job. All right. Well, stand by. We're going to come back to you in just a second as we get ready for the Go Big or Go BBQ interview that everybody's been waiting for. They're feverishly tuning in. By the way, we lost 4% of people following bands around. We'll update you on that. Hey, Primo Grill sponsors the show. Did you know about that? Yes, they do. Yes.
This is nice.
Very nice. And what do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that they can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that they can get rip-roaring hot for the high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. A best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker isn't very realistic. Why? Because it's round. And a Primo grill and the game-changing oval design, the shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. And when you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cooker. So you're only limited by your culinary imagination. Sold through dealers only. Find them on their website, primogrill.com. That's primogrill.com. So we'll sum it up in this way. Best ceramics in the biz, yes. Patented technology and true two-zone cooking capabilities with multiple sizes, yes to all of that. Again, primogrill.com. Find the dealer near you. Visit them in person. Touch, feel all the ovals. And then buy the extra large. You'll thank me later. Use the Primo this past weekend with new pal in person, Jason Kaplan, made chicken thighs, made atomic buffalo turds, everything a winner coming off the Primo. Plus, I have a shitload of charcoal left over. Close the bottom damper, close the top damper, it puts itself out, and now I have charcoal to reuse for the next time for a very long grilling session if I would care to do a long grilling session. Wow, the benefits are numerous, but you got to go get one. Primogrill.com. We're back with Aaron Huntelman right after this. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Michael Grunwald for joining us last segment. Find his new book wherever you're buying books at. This portion of the show brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Does not matter if you're a beginner or a professional. It's just a cooker to add to the arsenal, especially if you're looking for the upright barrel cooker. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Joining me now in studio guest, multiple time in studio guest, and the pitmaster of Go Big or Go BBQ, Aaron Huntelman, rejoins the show here. All right, Aaron, so we have a number of things to get to. I'm not asking you the YouTube poll question of the week just yet, but we will in the second hour. So I will start by asking you how the beef retail business is these days at a Mister Brisket.
We're growing. I mean, we're growing in the shipping side of things. I will say it's quiet but steady in store, but shipping wise, I mean, we're up from last year.
What does the retail business there look like? Is it a big lunch crowd or like a stop in, carry out from a food eating, or is there a lot of meat buying?
During the week it's sandwiches. You'll get, when the summer ramps up, we get a lot more guys, girls, families, everybody coming in, and they'll grab stuff during the week, but really during the week is sandwiches. And then Friday, Saturday, we kind of ramp up on the meat. We'll fill the case with more steaks and briskets and things like that to get out during the weekend.
Where are the high-end steaks coming from these days?
We're still doing Imperial Wagyu.
Yeah.
They're actually a JBSSA subsidiary. So we're part of the cartel, I guess.
Are we getting jacked around on price?
No, I mean, so Wagyu itself holds steady. I think their price is more of, I don't know if it's a yearly, bi-yearly kind of price set for them, but those prices don't move. I mean, I will tell you, choice and prime briskets, they're way up right now. At least $1 a pound each, if not a little more, on wholesale costs versus like 2 or 3 months ago. But the Wagyu's pretty much stayed steady the whole year.
My pal John Solberg, who we'll see in the second hour, mentioned to me a few days ago when we were talking on the phone that he's seeing what is tantamount to a skyrocketing in beef prices across the board in general. Maybe not talking about Wagyu, but let's say commodities beef. Is there truth in that as well?
I think so.
Yeah. Why?
I mean, from what I've heard, it's a smaller herd and a bigger demand, and I don't know if that's still
Is there any way to prove that?
No. But I've heard something like that every year. I mean, this is the first time where I'm like, we've gotten in briskets and I'm like, whoa, and how did that go up that much, after like last shipment? But I mean, it's, supply and demand. I think might be a smaller herd. We might still be seeing the impacts of, feed coming over from overseas that isn't getting to us or blah, blah, blah. But, for us, we're such a small player in that area that we try to absorb and keep a steady price.
So it sounds like buy Imperial product and you're flat on the price at this moment.
Right now, I mean, yeah. I mean, we have a great salesperson we work with, and she's always sending us a sheet of this is what I got on sale, and that's what we try to buy, to try and keep those prices steady.
What is the most popular stuff from a meat cut standpoint selling at Mister Brisket? What does Cleveland like to buy?
Ribeyes.
Period?
Ribeyes, basically, period. If not, actually, flank steaks go out a lot. Flank steaks, and then we're known for hanger and skirt because you can't really find hanger and skirt steaks, at most Heinen's or Giant Eagles. So people come in for those, and from there it's, do you have a tri-tip or do you have, we get, asked for picanha, but we don't get it as much as we'd like to.
Do you have to order it as picanha?
Yep. Or is it called the bottom sirloin or it's the top sirloin?
Yeah.
Either which one it is, but yeah, that's how we have to order it.
What skirt steak do you guys carry?
Outside.
Is that the one that you would use for tacos?
It's the good skirt steak.
Yeah.
Not
like the
real
rectangular long one.
It's a belt basically of meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meat belt.
Yep. I love our skirt steak. I think that's the best steak we sell.
What's that running a pound?
$32.95 a pound on the Wagyu.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Is that Wagyu?
Yeah, that's the Wagyu.
Yeah.
Prime's probably in that 28 pound range.
Available?
Yeah, Prime we have right now.
Do you have any availability issues in any grade at this point?
Not in meat or not in beef. Beef we haven't seen supply issues. Chickens where I've seen supply issues.
Do you carry multiple lines of chickens?
No, just the Springer
Wagyu chicken?
No, just Springer Mountain Farms is what we bring in on the chickens.
All right. We got this.
A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rumpy reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live fire breaking news across the country. Nay, the globe. And I am here in studio with Aaron Huntelman, who just broke a huge story as we're sitting across from each other about 6 feet away. Am I allowed to mention this?
Yeah, I talked about it. We said something at the beginning of the year about it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Mr. Brisket has bought Go Big or Go BBQ. How about that? That's a crazy.
The brand, not me as a person.
Well, yes, I think that's highly illegal, at least in some states. So, when did that venture, or how does that conversation take place?
Hank technically was my biggest customer per se, because we use the sauce by the gallon, we use the rubs by 10-pound bags for all of our catering and all the barbecue we do in store. And so it was kind of just, we sometimes butted heads on where I split my time, between Mister Brisket or Go Big or Go Barbecue. And I was finally like, Hank, I said, why don't we just combine forces, make it part of, under the Mister Brisket umbrella? And he's like, well, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. So we both were thinking it. It was just waiting on one of us to bring it up. And we're switching to a new co-packer. We're getting in plastic bottles for the sauce. We're moving to the 16-ounce shakers for the rub, and we have big plans on the horizon, and we're going big.
Who are you using for co-packer? Like, where are you switching from and where are you going to?
We're switching from like Dorina, who is a great co-packer. They've been great for me since 2020, I think, or late 2019.
Where are they out
of? Chicago.
Okay.
And we're moving over to Heath Riles co-packer, Reed Foods Tastemaker down in the Memphis area, I think is where they're at.
Is that who does Malcolm's too?
Yeah, I think so.
And is that who does Big Papa's too?
I don't know.
I thought all those guys kind of... Does they do Meat Church?
I don't know about that one. I didn't really dive deep. I just asked Mitchell Bedwell, who do you guys use? And we've had good conversations, and I trust their judgment. I mean, obviously, they've got a couple lines out there, so...
Yeah.
And they nailed, my samples back to us. We went back and forth. They've been great to work with, and, we're waiting on the new batch to come in.
So everything will be for sale in retail there at Mister Brisket. If you're a local Cleveland, you can stop in and grab bigger bottles and plastic bottle sauces whenever they hit the shelves. When are you anticipating arrival?
I'm hoping second week of July, I think, is when we're going to have it all ready.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's exciting. We went from me doing it on my own and doing a Kickstarter in 2019 to bottle, to starting with Hank in 2021 and then rolling into last year and going, Hank, let's do it together. And here we are getting 400 gallons of barbecue sauce coming to us.
Wow. I mean, the sauce is good. I'm a fan. I've had it many times, especially the 3 bottles.
Yeah.
And, but from what would I buy with my own money? If it's there, if it's available, if I need sauce, then, I'm always partial to my homemade sauce, of course, because it is the best. And nobody has decided to snake it from me when I send out the thank you letter for signing up for the newsletter, but that's their fault, not mine. But there's not many additional sauces, so I'll definitely buy Blues Hog. I'll definitely buy some versions of Head Country, but not all versions. And I would definitely buy a Go Bigger Barbecue. I would buy a PD River Swamp Sauce, which I don't even think is available anymore, but that was a banger back in the old days. And Smokin' Coals, which is completely unavailable anymore, was one of the best barbecue sauces I've ever had. Maybe a Meat Mitch Womp sauce.
That's a big one.
That's pretty good. But some of those I think are a bit knocky-offy of a Blues Hog, if I'm being honest. So it's almost like in a certain arena of that sauce, you like one, you like everything.
Yep. And
you'll just get what's available. But your sauce is definitely a bit unique. It's got all the flavor profiles that I hit, and I'm sure it'll be continuing on in its success train journey.
That's the goal.
How do you get in? Oh, sorry. The other big news was you have, I don't want to use the wrong words here, so I'm going to just say something and then you correct me if I'm wrong. You have some type of an alignment with the American Royal Barbecue Competition this year.
So we are partners.
Partners.
Where we're saying what we are, which is just a sponsorship level at the American Royal, but it's a partnership level of sponsorship. So with that, what really kicked this off was, in 2023, we launched trimming chicken thighs and got our comp box together for the 4 meats. And I think that was our test 6 months. Is this going to work? Is this something that's going to go off? And like Hank always says, well, people vote with their dollars. Well, after 2 years, we've sold over 20,000 chicken thighs, so I think people have voted with their dollars. So last year was more of a, we're doing this, we're getting the train going, we're seeing how we can grow it. And then this year was, now we have an established base. What do we do next? You always have to, I can't reinvent chicken thighs. I can't reinvent the brisket, this and that. So where do we go next? And I think the next step for us as a business for Mister Brisket is supporting the people that support us. So the biggest thing I saw was, why don't we go where a very large portion of our customers are? And that's the American Royal. And I was going through like the sign up last year, and they show you can click to do, sign up for your porta potty, your tent, do you want ice? Do you want a golf cart? And I'm like, well, why can't they just check, do you want a comp box for Mr. Brisket for $399 delivered to the Speedway? And so went with them. You actually got me the contact, which was great because trying to get in through their general email was not getting me anywhere. But as soon as I got your contact, they got back to me. And so we are, we went with them and they said it's a great idea. And here we are hoping to sell some comp boxes.
Do you have any orders yet?
So we haven't got any solidified orders. I know I'm at like 25% clicks on the thing. So, there's some background stuff where they won't share information, and we have to get it. We have to figure out the notification thing to reach out to these folks. But I know people are clicking the box to order.
If people are hearing this for the first time tonight, what's in the competition box?
So the competition box for the Royal is going to be 16 trimmed competition chicken thighs, Springer Mountain Farms. It's going to be 3 Prairie Fresh Prime or Wichita Packing ribs, your choice. 3 Prairie Fresh all natural pork collars, and then a trimmed Imperial Wagyu brisket flat. And then we're including kale with this too. And, that's kind of my crazy idea. I've heard that if you go to Kansas City, for the Royal, and if you don't have kale with you, they sell out at all the Walmarts and local grocery stores pretty fast. So I've already contacted the produce supplier out there for restaurants, and, we are now a customer in Kansas City for kale.
But you're shipping all your stuff from Cleveland, Ohio out to the...
Yeah, I'm now a logistics manager to try and figure out how to get the meat from here to Kansas City.
Good night.
It's not daunting, but it's definitely going to be a learning curve to figure that
You
part
might
out.
have to rent a straight truck and just drive it out yourself.
Josh from Buckeye Flavor has a CDL, so we're that's not out of the question.
So does Andrew Barnhart. He's a Class A tractor trailer driver. You get enough orders, we might be able to rent a tractor trailer.
Yeah, why not? That's the goal. I always thought it would be cool to roll up with a tractor, a trailer full of comp boxes or just meat from Mister Brisket. I think when I started at Mister Brisket, you asked, why Mister Brisket? And I said, well, I think it's a gold mine. And I think we're starting to finally mine that gold. And, we're finding our niche. We're growing. We've grown the past 2 or 3 years in many aspects of the business, and to the point where Hank's wanting me to do this stuff. So here we are.
All right, I got to ask a question. I've had the comp trimmed chicken thighs a while back. Great if you're into that. And then when Jason was over this past weekend, you brought me the 3 racks of Wichita ribs.
Yep.
Bangers again. I don't know if I lucked out the last 2 times in a row. But
they're a great rib.
I mean, I'm pretty demanding customer. And you can tell everybody, like, when I'm texting you what I want, I'm like, it better be this. It better be that. Like, I'm pretty demanding because I am a discerning backyard cook. And then I
handpicked the ribs.
Well, I mean, good for you. You've done it really well the last 2 times. You can continue to pick the ribs for me, is what I'm saying. So let me stop this here because we're going to go over. The question is this. I threw a curveball. I've never asked for chicken before. I said, what about some untrimmed chicken thighs? So I don't know what we did, like 14 or 16 or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's like a huge bag of just chicken thighs all stuffed in there. Great. And I'm no stranger to chicken thighs myself, whole ones. And I open up the bag. I've never seen in my entire barbecue life singular chicken thighs that were this big.
Yeah.
They were the biggest goddamn chicken thighs I have ever seen. They were almost like to the ounce, the same size. I mean, there were a very few that weren't nearly as big as the others. So the question is this. Are you using those thighs to make the comp chicken thighs?
So Henry sorts them a little bit. So Henry's our guy who trims all the thighs. Aaron did it for a while, and then I became the guy who hired the guy to do the job. And Henry's our guy right now.
Big shot alert.
Yeah, something like that. Capitalist. And so Henry, I kind of told Henry, I was like, if give him the ones that you don't think will work for comp thighs. So he does. I mean, the kid does. We get in 240 pounds of thighs a week. So he sorts them. He goes through them. He knows how to take those down to a 5-6 ounce thigh once it's all said and done. But if we can avoid it and just use them in retail space, that's what we do with them.
Because I'm looking at
they were
these
big.
Thighs I'm pulling them out.
I saw the weight at the end.
Yeah, there was very little. The thing that I really appreciate is you get them from Giant Eagle or you get them from Heinen's, whatever. I will get Heinen's chicken all day long. It's markedly better than Giant Eagle. We're just talking about our local grocery stores around here for the people that don't know the names we're talking about. But there's always, a amount of chicken skin that's hanging off of one side, so you got to trim that. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm a maniac, so I'm trimming that off. I'll square it up a little bit. I'm not a knuckle and an oyster guy. I don't give a shit about that, but I don't like to have extra skin where I don't need extra skin. Hardly any knife work that needed to be done here, but as I'm pulling them out and seasoning them up, I'm looking at my wife and I'm like, I fear that this is where the chicken thigh starts. They're cutting off like 2 pounds of chicken thigh. And then what are they doing with the rest of that? And is Mister Brisket a chicken waster, the likes we have never seen? I better call Michael Grunwald and get him on the case here. But you're saying that's not the case.
No, well, so so between the briskets that we trim and the chicken that we trim, I can create 2 or 3 sales out of all of that. With the chicken, we're taking the fat scrapings off the skin. We're making chicken schmaltz. I make a big batch of chicken schmaltz every week. If you don't know what that is, it's pure rendered chicken fat, basically like beef tallow but chicken fat. It's great for veggies, but I use it like in your competition chicken trim pan or competition chicken pans. I mix that with butter for your butter bath. It just really adds that chicken flavor. It's good. But then we any trimmings we have, we grind. We grind and make chicken burgers or just have ground chicken on hand. And then we have like the knuckle side that you cut off. We make chicken stock out of that. So we're cross utilizing where we can. We're saving the environment.
So if I go, you're not eating the earth. You're saving the earth.
Yep.
If I order chicken again, I can assume I can get chickens in that realm.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. I mean, we got 12 more cases today.
Good news. Mr. Brisket now has my chicken thigh business going forward. Thank you. I mean, and it tasted great.
Hank, you can retire.
They cooked up well. Oh my God. I mean, they were easily the best thighs I've ever had.
They're great. It's
from
great
retail.
chicken.
I mean, it does take a cook's
touch
expertise to get it to where I actually want it. But to start out, like, you got to start out with something good in order to finish with something good. And, not just saying this because you're sitting in across the seat from me. You could easily beat me up if you wanted to. I mean, these were superior chicken thighs, and I didn't feel like first of all, I'm always pissed that I have to pay, number one. But then number two, like, if I have to pay, then I want the quality to be there. And I was extremely happy with everything about the chicken experience, and everybody raved about it. Nobody says anything because we are complete beef and chicken snobs in this house because of what I do down here.
Yep.
Nobody says shit about anything when they see it. They could be the most spectacular thing, been there, done that, no big deal. They're completely desensitized to greatness. Everybody that walked by the chicken before it went on the Primo this past weekend was like, holy shit, look at the size of those chicken thighs. I was like, I can only hope that they're going to taste as good as they look. And the Primo did its job, and we pulled them right where I wanted to. They rested out a little bit, and when it was time to eat, they're so big. I had 2, and I was hating my life because then I also had a half a rack of ribs because I nailed the ribs. They were so good. I was overeating, but I couldn't stop eating because of how great everything was. So, long way to go.
Yep.
To say, if you're in the market for chicken thighs, even commodities chicken thighs here, not the competition prep, do yourself a favor, try it out and see the size of these things, and the taste is superior. What's the brand again?
Springer Mountain Farms.
Where are they at?
I think the farms themselves are on the East Coast, like Carolinas, somewhere. It's where they come out of.
Yeah, nice.
So we
congrats on the chicken. I mean, it is a 100% banger. Love it.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before we turn into the second hour here and I subject you to the embedded correspondence?
No, I think we had fun.
All right. What's Mr. Brisket's website?
www.misterbrisket.com.
All right. There's Aaron Huntelman right there. Aaron, you stand by.
Yep.
And we will go to I went really long. Shysters. What do you got here? Hey, did you know we're celebrating 15 years with Big Papa Smokers being in business? Yes. Backyard warriors like me, competition pros like Aaron and the rest of the gang out there looking to win grand championships. Whether you're prepping for your next comp or you're firing up the grill for spring or summer, Big Papa's award-winning rubs like Sweet Money, Competition Brisket and Steak, Cash Cow, Cattle Prod, Sweet Louis Seasoned Salt, Desert Gold, the list goes on. The bold flavors that you're looking for to take barbecue to the next level, and for a limited time, they've brought back a fan favorite, La Cucaracha. The extra kick you've been craving and wishing would show back up. Well, it's here and it's ready, but only for a limited time. Barbecue Central Show listeners can save on the shipping. How much? Free. How about that? Everybody loves free. BBQ Central 25 at checkout. BBQ Central 25 at checkout. All one word. BBQ Central 25 at checkout for free shipping now through June 30th. So only 6 days left. Cripes. Visit BigPapaSmokers.com and stock up now. BBQ Central 25 for free ground shipping. Some exclusions do apply, so check that out. But I can guarantee on all the rubs and the Granny's barbecue sauce, all you want, free shipping. How about that? BBQ Central 25 for free ground shipping. Stick around. We'll be right back with an abridged first hour close and then an abridged second hour.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are doing the abridged close to the first hour. How abridged? This abridged. We are out of time, and we are going to the second hour, so stick around. We'll be right back.